All right, Westworld, episode 6 breakdown. Jeff Lowe, KenJac, John Feitelberg. I actually did that how you guys are oriented. I haven't done that before.
Worked
I
out.
like that. That was kind of nice. Episode 6 of Westworld, a crazy episode. I don't even think we need to waste much time. Lot of really intense. This is one of the more intense episodes. And I wouldn't even, not even remotely confusing. They didn't try to really throw you for a loop here. They just threw a lot out there at you. There's 2 episodes left after this. Which is kind of nuts because there's still a lot to wrap up. But I think that just means that it's going to be kind of batshit insane the rest of the way. Off the top, I liked it a lot. Thought it was a very good episode. Characters I wanted to hear and see more about, especially William. I mean, come on, William. Ed Harris is fucking fantastic. So good.
Amazing.
I think Ed Harris is fantastic. I don't know that I care for William.
You know if you care for William. Okay.
As
like
a character, just in general?
As just in general, this was my least favorite episode of the season.
Really?
What?
I didn't love it. It was fine. It wasn't a bad episode. It wasn't, it's not like a season 2 where it's like next episode better be good or else I might be out. There was just, it left me with a lot where I was just like, why?
This
you
is
said
why
it was very straightforward. I thought it was very underwhelming.
Interesting.
And parts where I was just like, I don't get how we're progressing the story here.
This is why we're a good panel, though, because all 3 of us so far have had completely differing opinions on what consists of like a good episode and a bad episode.
This episode is definitely a character episode. It's the advancement of 3 characters and where they are in the storyline. That's interesting. I mean, because look, have you seen the reactions to the episode? Some people have called it one of the best episodes of Westworld, period.
Really? No, I didn't see that. I actually just watched it because I watched Last Dance last night. So I haven't had much time to do much of the reaction to it. But it's a first take. But my first take is, it was good. It was entertaining. But there was a lot of the plot stuff I have questions with.
Okay. All right. Well, let's run through it. So we're gonna break it down. And I will assume KenJac the way I just assumed you said you liked it, just based on your reaction.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
No, I liked it a lot.
So let's go through it. Here's how we're gonna break it down. We're going to start out with William. William's storyline was not really connected to anyone else, maybe up until the end. So we're going to go through all of what William did, what his episode consisted of. Then we're going to talk about Charlotte and Maeve separately, and we'll end it with the Charlotte and Maeve convergence of their storylines. William, off the top, this has been his most, I would say, fleshed out episode where you get the most personality. We really see into how he is doing currently. Really not many flashbacks, kind of sort of flashbacks, but in a really unique and kind of cool way, I thought. He's in group therapy off the start. He's in one of those Rehoboam, Sirach, Insight re-education centers. There's a guy in I guess the therapy who's talking about God and all this, and William's like, "Are you fucking kidding me, bro? Are you serious?"
By the way, that guy has a perfect tape up. I don't know where you get haircuts when you're in a mental health facility, but I don't think you can. Period. Like I don't know how that even works.
Maybe it's one
I
of those
thought they
Jimmy
just had
Neutron
an on-set
machines.
barber.
He just goes under the machine in it.
In the future, you just put on like that Steve Wilkos thing that just like fixes your hair automatically.
Could be the case.
Steve Wilkos thing.
You know what I'm talking about, right? The thing he uses to shave his head. It's incredible.
He says something about God's plan, and William chimes in like, all right, I'm not just going to sit here and listen to this crap. He said, God's fucking plan? Do you believe in Santa Claus too? Then he starts going off. He says humanity is like a strand of, or like a piece of dirt, or like a something on bacteria. Oh, it's bacteria on a ball of mud hurtling through the void.
Yeah, we're a thin layer of bacteria.
Yeah, that's
cool
like,
line.
That's, I mean, you may as well, that's just humanity is shit, basically. And he says that if God existed, he would have given up on us long ago.
That's all fine in, I don't know, Westworld in this scene to me it's a victim of its own, like, success and the idea that inspires deep thought and stuff like that. That's the take of every villain ever. I mean, what William turns into in this meeting, and he basically in this whole episode, is like the meme, like, we are the virus. Like, yeah, humanity exists to destroy itself. We get it, dude.
Yeah, but I think
society meme.
Yeah, like nature's returning. We are the virus. I know, William.
But he, I believe by the end of this, I mean, the whole point is he is not a bad guy anymore. right? He's purged himself from that. But we'll get to that moment in a second, because he goes through then a individual therapy session, and you get a couple hints of when this is taking place. This is taking place right around when all of the data is being leaked, because his therapist gets like a ton of calls, and you see on her phone it says like profile available, and she's like, oh, why is my family bothering me? It's like, I mean, they call you 17 times, pick up the phone, right? Like after 10, probably time to like, well, what are they bothering you for? They don't need like bread from the store. Like you should probably pick it up, which ends up hurting her in the end. He says he knows he's made a mistake. He's very much come to terms with his daughter and the fact that he killed his daughter, and not to a point of like, yeah, I killed her, whatever. He's like, I shouldn't even be here. I should be, he said, basically in a box underground. I should be dead. Like I don't belong here. Again, his therapist finds the profile mid-call, gets a text from her husband like, do not call us, don't contact us. I took the kids, and you see on her profile that she had like affairs with some of the patients, and she ends up
very horny therapist. She's like the one from The Departed.
Right, yes. Ends up getting like an opioid addiction, so she storms out of that meeting.
Yeah. I like that, because the last episode, a complaint was that it wasn't the world wasn't chaotic enough right away. So
by the way,
it's more chaotic now.
I'll throw it up here visually, and I forgot to put it in our rundown. Apparently, I didn't know that there was something that Ford had mentioned back in season 1 about letting his greyhound loose or something. And I forget the context of it, but I saw it on the Westworld Reddit, and apparently that first dog we saw, and we made fun of like, oh, we always saw it was a dog. That was a greyhound. So that was like apparently symbolic of like what Ford had said. I did not pick up on. Did not pick up on that.
Only the Reddit could pick that up.
It's very much. It's a different brain. William gets one of those drips installed. This actually hurt me while I was watching. I did not like this.
Yeah.
The mini drills going into your mouth. That stinks.
You can't do any dentist shit. Just like dentistry outside of a dentist's office is not allowed. It's like rap song, police sirens in music in a rap song where you're like, it shouldn't be allowed there because it just scares me every time. Dentist drills outside of a dentist's office just scare me.
There's certain areas of the body I think that are just too sensitive to imagine pain in. Like I don't like being touched underneath my arm because it just hurts too much. Like you get a pinch under the arm, it hurts like fucking hell. I don't like that. I don't like it in movies when they touch people's eyes. I don't like it when they touch teeth or the roof of the mouth. It just freaks me out. Oh,
he all things considered, like they were like, hey, we got to calm him down. I thought he was fairly calm. It was like one kind of scream. I thought he was doing pretty well. I feel like I can't imagine like anyone takes it better than William did there. If he gets that drip installed, they can control his vitals, all that shit. Again, Caleb got that. We know Caleb was in the same situation as he was in a re-education center. Nothing like crazy, no reveal, but we knew that already, so it's not a shock that he got that. And when you see him walking away, this is a really morbid-ass moment. You see the therapist killing herself, her walking off and hanging herself off her desk.
That was a very cool scene.
It was like,
by the way,
that really set the tone, not just for William, but for the entire episode. He's sent back, and he's basically prescribed AR therapy. And through AR therapy, he sees himself as a kid. He's got issues with his father. His family's really pissed at him. He's done something wrong. And he starts freaking out. He goes, get me the fuck out of here. He starts losing his shit. They come in to try to help him. A worker tries to put one of those like memory tabs in his mouth, bites his finger off, spits his finger out. Some brutal shit. And then they put him back under.
I never understand how it works when like they force the pill into someone's mouth and they get him to swallow it. I feel like I wouldn't swallow it. Like,
I think
feel
those
like
are
nothing someone could
dissolvable.
do.
Those are dissolvable.
Oh,
it's
like a Listerine strip.
Exactly. I think they're like Listerine strips because we'll talk about the tabs later, but they're teased in the next episode. And apparently, I didn't know this, and I went back and looked. The guy in the first episode that Dolores ends up kind of kills because he falls and smashes his head open on the pool. He takes him out of a pack and it's like just puts him on his tongue. So those are just dissolvable.
Okay.
Because otherwise,
they do that in movies a lot, though. They do that in movies a ton of times, though.
Really, like that I've never understood. Like, just don't. I guess it dissolves, but no, these are like Listerine strips. These are,
I do have one more question before we get a little further past this. When they're testing William, what's wrong with him? What's in him?
What do you mean?
They do say there's like a foreign protein found or something.
We'll get to that. We'll get to that. There's an answer for that. There's an answer for that, and it will make complete sense. So William is then woken up in AR therapy. There's an older character, forget his name, slips my mind. I don't think it's that important. Regardless, he wakes up.
Colonel something. Fuck.
Yeah. I forget his name. I don't think it's important. I think it's just a visual cue to make sure you know that it's definitely augmented reality, he meets other Williams. I thought this was a very cool way of him coping and dealing with the past as opposed to just seeing a bunch of flashbacks. It keeps us linear, keeps us in this timeline. You see regular William, you see the Man in Black version, you see him as a child, and then you see Jimmy Simpson William. So it's cool to see Jimmy Simpson back in the fold. A ringer all the time. Also, James Delos is there. James Delos is kind of in the corner, father-in-law, antagonizing him throughout this entire experience. Williams is beginning to figure
like purgatory. That whole scene is sort of like purgatory because he's wearing white and the other guy's wearing black, and they're all just sitting there judging the Williams, like in all of his actions throughout the past. He's
figuring more about himself. A lot of questions of, was he always violent? Did he become this way? We figure out that he beat this kid up at school as a kid, like knocked his teeth out. He's very violent. They say, like, you drove your dad to drink. You drove your dad problems. His dad asks him, the kid, like, what the fuck is wrong with you? Again, Delos kind of antagonizes him. He says, like, did this life happen to you? Did life choose this for you? Or did you choose this path of this violence? And William says something that was actually told to him when he arrived at the park in season 1. It was said to him, if you can't tell, does it matter? And he actually recites that line, callback from season 1, to that question of, is this your life or did you choose it? He says, if you can't tell, does it matter? Which is, again, it's a very, like, morbid thing to say, like, whatever, this is killing, this is violence, does it even fucking matter with life? Life is pointless. But, again, this is him kind of stripping away the character of the Man in Black that we've seen for all these seasons. This guy who we consider to be a villain. And then there's a couple other scenes with other characters, and we come back to him in that room, and he is just killing all of himself. He's killing the Williams, beating the shit out of Jimmy Simpson with a chair, dead, all of them. He says, I'm free now.
WWE style is great.
Exactly, yeah. It's like a cage match. And then you have Delos sitting on the side there, and he says to Delos, like, I'm free now. And he is in white. He is now the Man in White. I think that's what we're going to call him from now on, because I think it's trying to imply
Gandalf the White.
Yeah, he is a hero now. He is no longer a villain. He views himself as somebody positive to save the world. And we know in a future teeth, he says, I'm trying to save the fucking world, or something like that. He's killed his past to become good. And he says, it doesn't really matter what I've been. He said, I finally understand my purpose. I'm the good guy. I've been confused all along. And then finally, he is pulled out of therapy. And we see that he's pulled out of therapy by 2 other people dressed in white, Bernard and Ashley. Bernard and Ashley are there, which is kind of cool. I like the fact that we're going to see them team up. I will talk about later on. We do have a couple questions about them and if that was part of Dolores's plan for them to go there and how they knew. If you do remember, they were kind of hinted to where William was because Connells, before he let them go at Delos, he said, hey, like he pointed the re-education center, like one of those iPads, and that's where they fled off to. So that's how they knew where to go to find William. Any other questions? I know you want to talk about that thing inside him, but that's going to come up in the next 2 people because it is connected to the other 2 stories.
I also just thought that, again, with the character of William, I just thought that, and maybe it's because the music they added made it sound deeper than it was. I just didn't think there was much reveal. It was a cool scene, and I feel like this keeps happening where it's like, it's cool to look at, but just it didn't feel like it added much to the story to me. Really, like if you had told me without seeing that scene, what was William's childhood like? Like he probably had a drunk dad who abused him. It was it wasn't like a whoa, that's what.
Yeah, but I think the point of this scene though is to show you that he drove his family insane. He was a madman, and it's the question.
He was a kid who got in a fight on the playground.
Yeah, but he has this deep-rooted thing throughout even just his childhood, and that's why he goes to Westworld. He releases fucking demons. This character's never had any hesitation or qualm to kill anyone or do anything.
But Jimmy Simpson also a big-time pussy when he first gets to Westworld. He doesn't want to kill anyone or touch anything. Huge bitch when he gets. But
once he gets going, though, like it's been his whole life, and I think that's kind of the point. Is that like he hasn't just become a bad guy because of Westworld. He's always been bad, but for him, he kind of realizes I don't have to be bad. It doesn't. It just I don't
think a playground fight is the way to show like he's always been a monster. Like 3 of us have been in playground fights.
But I think it's
implied that it
should have been an MMA
times.
fighter.
I think it's implied it happens many times. The family's arguing. I don't look if you don't vibe with how they showed that. I mean I get it, but I thought they did a nice job here at showing all of the characters, not doing flashbacks. I think flashbacks is I don't think it's a problem with this show, excuse me, but I think too many flashbacks can derail anything. So I like the way they set up, presented it. Like I totally believe it. I don't know. Maybe I just bought it hook, line, and sinker. But
This kid really fucking missed his calling. You know how hard it is to break someone's arm in a fight? Like, he broke a kid's arm and knocked all of his teeth out before a teacher separated him. He should have been a fucking MMA
wanted
fighter.
to knock his teeth out. Only knocked out 3. Remember, he said, "I wish I would have knocked all his teeth."
Yeah, knocked out 3 teeth. Either way, man. 3 teeth and breaking a kid's arm before he gets separated by a teacher. That's crazy. This guy's a psychopath.
Yeah, don't get me wrong. It was an aggressive playground fight.
Yeah. Playground fights.
Have you ever broken someone's arm?
Have
you ever broken someone's arm in a playground fight, John?
No, but it's. I honestly didn't even picture that as like I just pictured that like the kid fell off the playground or something like that. Like,
I think he like Mafia put his The Departed put his arm on the side of the pool table and broke it.
Or like the Nice Guys, where he's like, "All right, now we want to say doctors, you have a radio fracture on the left arm. Deep breath."
Any other questions on William? I will get to the thing that was found inside him. It's integral for the next 2 people. So other than that, basically he views himself as a good guy. He is the man in white now, which the black and white thing that is such a major part of the series. Whether I know, John, you brought it up a couple episodes ago, Caleb walking between a shadow and sunlight, everything is black and white, good and evil. I think it signifies that he is good, especially because Bernard is viewed as probably one of the few like actually good people, and he's all in white as well.
I've been disappointed with Bernard and Stubbs, not just how they're utilized, because we said in episode 1, I think, like, they're going to be a great buddy cop duo to follow, and they kind of just appear in places. There's no story of their journey. It's kind of just like, oh, here they are now, and like here they are at the crazy sex party. Here they are in the mental hospital. I'd like to see their just because I think that would be entertaining. Just like their interactions.
They're like an addition to scenes instead of being they're like the cherry on top instead of being the sundae.
I think we'll get more. It's obvious they're obviously now a very big part of it because they're tied to a character who believes he's going to save humanity or save whatever. So we'll probably get more of them. Charlotte, though, let's talk about Charlotte. She returns home in the beginning to her husband and son. There's unrest and chaos in the streets. You see a guy graffitiing a maze. We've seen the maze symbol everywhere throughout this series. So now it's humanity seeing that they're within a maze or trying to escape a maze. The divergence circle is a fucking disaster now, by the way. The entire left side is just black. It's not even really a circle anymore. And we actually see a circle in her apartment. Did you notice that there was a big circle on the wall, a la what Serac has? Her husband didn't read the future thing, which I think this is not important to the story, not a critique, but I think he's lying. I think he did, and I think he's trying to seem like a badass. Like, I didn't read it. What are you talking about?
I did. I think I speaking for me here, I would not read it. I do not know. I do not just want to know things I'm not supposed to know.
I will say it makes the ending of Charlotte's storyline in this episode much more tragic because he doesn't read it.
Yes.
And he has a lot of hope that the machine won't kill him, and it quite literally fucking does. So Charlotte then returns to Delos. Just a quick moment with her son and her husband, because obviously we know this is Dolores Charlotte. She meets up with a board member because they're going to go stop Serac from taking over the company. He is immediately wiped out and then stuffed into a fucking mulch bin. And Serac gives her a call like, hey, just a heads up, fuck you. I'm taking the company still. And she's like, are you shitting me? I was a board member. Because at this point, he's either doesn't know or he's acting like she's still just Charlotte. And he's like, there's a lot of unrest in the street. Dolores did one thing that helped me out. I can just take some guy out in the middle of the road. Nobody's going to bat an eye. That's normal right now. She calls Dolores, tells her about her concerns, talks about her family. Dolores reminds her, this is not your family. And she mentions that why the fuck do we have to keep these memories? And Dolores, I think, makes kind of an important comment when it comes to asking why with this show. She's like, if we didn't have our memories, we didn't have that emotion, what would even the point be at all? Like, right? Like, we stripped away all that. Like, what are we even doing? Like, what is the point when we're just robots? So she says the memories do make it difficult, and she's really blending and merging, which we've heard so many times throughout this series, and even just the past episode from Bernard talking about the merging and blending of the personalities. And Dolores tells her to protect the information, protect the machines that make the copies of the host. That's like her main goal when she goes to Delos as Serac arrives there. Serac does arrive there eventually, meets up with Charlotte. He wants everything destroyed. Everything. Trillions of dollars. I don't give a shit. We got to find Dolores copy. I know there's a Dolores copy here somewhere. I got to look at the information, get what I need, get the encryption key. That's it. Everything else fucking burned to the ground. Says they're going to test everyone in the facility to find Dolores. And Charlotte's like, yeah, you betcha. Of course we'll test everybody, knowing that it's just her. He saves only one host. He saves one host, and we'll get to who that is in a minute. We talk about Maeve. All the other hosts, they just put them up in flames. Charlotte then goes down and saves all the information, puts it on a bit of a flash drive. One of Serac's security members is like, wait a second, he told you to burn all this. And she kills him.
That was a board member, I think.
A what?
I think that was one of the board members. That was one of the board members of Delos, I believe.
Was not security? Okay, maybe it was. I thought it was a security member. Yep. Regardless, dead.
Also the dad from the night of. And you remember that one fights?
Yeah.
That was the guy's dad. He's one of those guys. Once you get in the HBO family, you're there forever.
So you think she's kind of avoided Serac finding out because she kills the guy and she has all the information. So now she has to go back up eventually to the board meeting. But before she does, she stops and makes sure Dolores knows that she has all the information. And she reveals two pieces of information. One, she says William is in Mexico. She says the tracker worked. So the protein that was found in William when he was tested, that was the prick on his neck. When she pricked him,
I missed that.
She put a tracker in him, and that's how they were able to figure out where their mix was. That's how that all ties up.
I completely missed that. Okay.
Yeah, so that explains what she did there. She was not drawing blood. She was injecting something into his blood. She tracked him there, and that's how Connells, who I used to call Martin, but now everyone calls him Connells, so I'm just going to have to call him Connells.
It's bullshit.
It should be Martin.
I kept getting so confused. I was like, Connells? Who the fuck is Connells?
It should be Martin. Like, everyone's right. Charlotte, Dolores, it should be Martin. Martin's a fine name. No one else is named Martin in this show. But I'm calling him Connells now, just not to confuse people. Connells also had that tracking. That's why he was able to tell Ashley and Bernard. That's why they ended up finding him. And then she also mentions 4 people are being uploaded by Serac, are being created as hosts with the machines on the big white goo tanks. Connell's Pearl was saved, she says. And that's important because now, technically, Serac has Dolores because Connell's was a Dolores. And that's what she considers to be a problem. The William stuff was a positive. Serac having Connell's, not great. Then Charlotte arrives to the board meeting. Serac says, look, I figured out it's you. And says I loved this. I thought this was brutal and showed that, we've kind of thought, oh, this Charlotte, how are they going to believe her? She doesn't really know or love her daughter, right? Like, she's not going to show all the sympathy in the world. Apparently, it's too much sympathy. Because she's like, Serac says the normal Charlotte would have never gone and seen her son. The normal Charlotte, too ruthless.
This part confused me a little bit because he said, like, I've been watching you since the second you arrived on the company grounds. That's how we knew that you did it. Like, well, why didn't you just track her phone call to Dolores you made the second she got into the fucking building? Like, that should have been the bigger giveaway than her talking to her daughter or her son, whatever.
So she is found out. They're going to take her away. She has this canister she brought up there that kind of puts them either poison or like classic knockout gas. And then she goes and she's going to shoot Serac, which this wasn't like crazy because you're like, this guy's a hologram. This guy's always a hologram when he needs to be. And she shoots him. And it was kind of a cool, the hologram looks cool when the bullet goes through and he's like, you fucking idiot.
It does look cool, but also when everyone else is passed out and he's not, like, he's probably not a human being.
Yeah, I don't think he's immune to your gas. And he's like, you serious? Like, really? You thought you were going to shoot me here? So now he needs to go track her down. He has control, though. We do see that. The Rehoboam circle, it's now shrinking. Now, that doesn't mean right now things are better, but obviously Rehoboam is a lot based in the future and how things are going to go down the road. So clearly he has control of Delos information, and that's what he needs. He doesn't have exactly what he needs, but that kind of implies that the way the storyline is going right now, Rehoboam thinks is going to end well for them. So that's just something to keep in mind. Could get even worse for our heroes, I guess, whoever we're rooting for. It could get worse for non-Serac people next episode. Let me put it that way, because I still don't know who we're rooting for here, which part of the intrigue. Maeve, other side of the coin here. Maeve starts off in the Sublime. It's kind of a tease from Serac.
Are we saving how Charlotte's story ends for later?
Yes, we're going to converge Maeve and Charlotte at the end here. She starts off in the Sublime with her daughter, and it's Serac kind of giving her a bit of a tease, like, this can be yours. Don't fuck up again, though. Like, you got killed. Like, let's not get stabbed again by the sword. Which, again, not giving her a lot of credit. She took down a lot of people. But don't die again, basically. I need you to do this for me. Again, she was saved because we saw the Musashi Dolores went to go get her pearl, but had to keep the charade going that she wasn't really Dolores, so she didn't get the pearl. She's back in World War II land, as Serac is finding a way to re-upload and make her a host in the real world. Runs into Lee Sizemore. And then during their conversation, a cool moment where the screen kind of like gets all gooey and moves over, and she goes, "Oh shit, I've been moved. I am now in Delos." And we see the shot of inside Delos where he is uploading the pearl. Maeve is then able to, or actually, so flashback to what I talked about when we talked about Charlotte, or is it William? It was Charlotte. We know that there was one person saved from that host room at Delos, and it ended up being Hector. Because of the promise, because of the deal they made, Serac saved Hector for Maeve. So Hector shows up. She's able to kind of readjust Hector, so now he realizes it's Maeve, and he's not just like in the war world simulation. So Hector's there with Lee and with Maeve, and then they're able to meet face-to-face with Dolores, because, again, Serac has the Connell's pearl, which is actually Dolores. So she goes down to where we've seen, Dolores and Bernard meet before, and they kind of hash it out, and they discuss how they kind of have the same motives, and they would be useful for each other, but they can't trust each other, right? Dolores is trying to tell Maeve, like, look, like, there's things I can do to help save us, but if I tell you that, I would make sure your daughter's okay or something like that. Like, if I tell you you'll be fine, you won't believe me. You'll be concerned about your daughter. So they kind of agree that, like, imply that, like, while they may be on the same page with things, they have to fight because there is no trust. They don't believe in each other, even though there's a common ground there. And even Dolores is like, I can't trust you. Like, I can't promise you these things. You're working for Serac. Like, how do I know you're not going to double cross me? Now the storylines
They also
converge.
have separate motives, right? They also
They
have
do.
separate motives because I think Dolores wants the freedom of all the hosts. I think that Maeve is very single-minded in that she just wants to be with her daughter at all costs. Like, everyone in this show, like, all whatever good guys, villains, whatever you want to consider it, they all have totally different motives as to what they actually want, even if they want to pretend that they're on the same team for whatever reason.
Yes, right, because, like, they're same a little bit, but they are different. Like, the motives are definitely different. Like, they could, if they teamed up, they could achieve the same thing, but they're so far down the road of being on opposite ends of the spectrum, it just doesn't make much sense anymore. Though Dolores is beginning to show maybe a little sympathy towards that. However, this is where they converge. Maeve senses something wrong. Charlotte is in the room with the host uploading. So this is now in the real world. Maeve is seeing this from the simulation world. Charlotte actually takes out Hector's pearl and just crushes it, just like into goo and little shards, and Hector is done. Hector's like donezo. He's kaput, and he drops dead there. And then Charlotte Charlotte removes Connell's pearl, and now Dolores is no longer in the simulation with Maeve, so Maeve cannot talk to Dolores. Charlotte takes the pearl and puts it in her pocket. So she's kind of saved Dolores from being interrogated by Maeve and Serac. Charlotte is able to escape the facility, has like an elevator fight scene. By the way, Tessa Thompson looked fucking badass in her pants and her like kind of sparkly sleeveless shirt. And we've seen her, like, I know we've discussed like the combat in the show, people have talked about, like, maybe not the best sometimes, but we've seen her fighting like Thor Ragnarok and shit. Tessa Thompson can do some fight scenes. She looks pretty badass when she's fighting.
Badass.
My one complaint though, and this is a common complaint. The stormtrooper aim from all the security teams is so bad. They're so bad at shooting. They're the worst.
It is, but that's just like,
you just accept it. But
that's every action movie, everything ever. Like it's often crazy that these guys are so poorly trained.
They're so
bad. It doesn't
bad.
even register with me anymore. Like, honestly, I didn't notice.
She's cornered, but she calls on a riot droid, which we saw she bought many of those riot droids.
Cool.
Oh, yeah. The droid, very cool, comes in, just beats the shit out of everybody. And she's able to escape with a lot of gunshots. She did get shot. I saw some people on the Reddit speculate, too. They have, like, a question thread on Westworld. They're like, how is Charlotte alive, even though she took, like, a heavy bullet, yet Maeve died. Maeve was stabbed in the heart. Like, she was fucking straight up killed. Charlotte, hindered, just shot in some places. She goes home. She tells her family, look, I'll bring you to safety. I got you. I'm going to protect you. They go in the car, and as they're driving away, car fucking blows up. explodes into a fiery crash. You see a Ciroc security member get into his ear, walk away, like confirmed kill. That's the machine. That's the machine killing your husband after he said, "I'm not gonna let the machine dictate my life." Well, it just happened. So Ciroc security were there. We see how that happened. She's burned as she crawls out of her car. She's burned like hair, everything. She's just skin.
Shout out to Industrial Light and Magic for letting them borrow the Anakin skin.
It is Anakin Skywalker at the end of Revenge of the Sith. That's exactly what it reminded me of too. And she has one tear. She watches the car catch on fire, and now she's fucking motivated now. Like now there's really no question who she is going after though, because that unless somehow, some way someone else killed her, I think it's fairly obvious Ciroc killed her, right?
That was Ciroc's head of security guy.
Yeah, I know. I just like you just never know, right? You just like it's so obvious it's Ciroc, but it gives me that 1 second of pause. Like, okay, I'm pretty sure.
Maybe that could be the double twist, is that Dolores paid off somehow the Ciroc security guard, like made some sort of like, hey, I'm going to kill your wife and kids unless you blow this up. And then that's going to be like her way of getting Charlotte back to her, being like, no, you can only trust me because Ciroc will never help you, blah, blah. You know what I mean?
But I don't buy it. This was a big problem with me here too. I don't buy that she cares that much about these people. I haven't been, as far as I know, they've met twice.
No, but that's the point. They didn't get rid of the memories of Charlotte, though. It's exactly what Bernard says in the last episode, and they've teased it before. I think Ford says it too. Like when you have these two memories, these two people, they begin to converge and they begin to become one of the same. So she is getting kind of all the emotions.
Ciroc told us Charlotte didn't even like these people.
But I think it also shows the compassion of Dolores as well. I think it's teasing the compassion of the Dolores character that's in her mind.
It's merging their personalities.
But merging their personalities, two people who don't care about these people. You're taking people who don't care about these two strangers.
But I think the point is that the Dolores Pearl does care. The Dolores side of things actually does care.
She has like a familiar care, like, you know how much she cares about her dad throughout like the first 2 seasons and stuff. Like she has that like level of compassion to her, and I think that you combine that with the fact that she's now related to these people, quote unquote, because of the merging with Charlotte's person.
But even if you don't buy into that, I mean, we're just buying into the idea that she wants to go kill the guy that just tried to kill her.
Right? Yeah, but I didn't even get why she went back. But it was like you're just told that these people don't matter, and look, I like people in my life, but it's not going to like really drive me to go save these two strangers when I have other missions I have to do.
Yeah, but I think that's part of the conflict, right? Like the conflict is that she doesn't really know she's kind of struggling with who she is, right? She's mixing now between the mission of Dolores, who's like single-minded. I need to, free all the hosts. I need to stop humanity, blah, blah, blah. And she's merging that with Charlotte, who like more of her is like, I think more grounded in humanity and like emotions and not being the single-minded robotic machine,
Keep in mind, one of the memories she does have of Charlotte too is her singing to her son in Westworld as she was dying. So that's a big memory in her head too. And that was what was ingrained in her. It was that song she was singing. It was the message to her son. So like that is kind of the big memory of the emotion of Charlotte. So that on top, yes, while we know Ciroc said, you don't even love your son. That's how I knew. But like we saw there was still a moment of vulnerability when the actual Charlotte was dying. So mix that with Dolores. So I think they're trying to imply that Dolores is more compassionate than we think.
I hadn't thought about the singing scene. The singing scene, that sways me a bit.
Without that, I'm on your side. Like I completely agree. Say it again.
While I was watching the singing scene, I hadn't considered. That is important. But like while I was watching, I was like, why is she going back? It didn't grab me. It didn't, in the moment to me, it didn't make sense that she's going back to save these people who she didn't know existed or anything like that.
By the way, Michael Ealy, all-time awful dad. Like his wife's a CEO, and she comes back riddled with bullet holes, like not even really reacting. She's like, "Yeah, get in the car. I got this gun. We got to drive out of here." And he's like, "Okay, honey, whatever you say."
Want a Band-Aid?
You didn't even ask. You didn't even not a single question about the bullet holes in his wife.
That just shows me he's convinced. I'm convinced he read that thing and he was going to die. He's a fucking liar. He read his thing. He's not as cool as he thinks he is.
There's a 3, babe.
I would agree with you that without the singing thing, I would probably say the same thing. I think the singing thing is that entire episode where she kills the pedophile. I think that's a very important to that character.
Yeah, that's better. It just there are a lot of parts in Westworld, especially now. It seems like as it's all coming to an end, where there are just things that make me be like, I don't think you taught me enough to care about this, and like I think that's on the storytelling where it's like, and not like poorly explained, just there wasn't enough time here for me to get invested in these two people and believe that Charlotte's invested in these two people. You didn't teach me that well enough. It's and look, like any student, perhaps it's on the stupidity of the student, but also I just think the teacher did not try hard enough with me on this one.
That's fair. That's I can't fault you on that. I there are a lot of things you have to buy into quickly this season because of the way they're telling the story and the way they're progressing things in a different manner than they have the last couple of seasons. So I totally get that. Questions, comments, and theories though. It's from @GLandonD said, was Bernard finding William part of Dolores' plan? Was that part of Dolores' plan that she wants them to team up and be together? I don't know. I like that, though. I like Bernard and William being on the kind of the side that you're rooting for. I also think that Ashley very suspiciously can get into Serac-controlled things in places very easily. And I think the idea that Ashley is in like kind of a mole for Serac is a strong case at this point.
That's a good question.
I hadn't thought about that.
Like what? But anyway, but what do you think? Going back to Bernard and William, do you think that it was part of her plan, or do you think that it was Connell's telling him less? Because the way Connell's made it seem in the last episode, like it was him having a moment of vulnerability. It's like, I know I'm about to die, but maybe that was him selling it. Like, oh, here you go. This is information. Go find William. Like, save yourself. It was maybe his way of, or Dolores' way of getting Bernard to team up with William, knowing that she needed them to be together because she needs William to be on the side of good, of positivity.
Yeah,
I'm down with that shit. I mean, Dolores is, I think, the brains here and all this. Even Serac might look it. I think Dolores is behind everything. So I'd very much co-sign that.
Yeah, and Bernard's kind of a dumbass. I think that she's just trying to, like, he needs him to use his free will to decide to be on her team. Like, he needs him to, like, consciously think that he's doing something, like, whatever she needs him to do by choice. So, like, he needs Connell to sell it so that he goes and does whatever actions he ends up doing for Dolores on his own.
Speaking of Charlotte, this was on Reddit and basically everywhere, all breakdowns and everything. People noted this on Twitter. When we saw Charlotte and Dolores in the hotel room, there were these two skinny statues. And they were, like, pointed out backwards like this with their backs bowed out. And they were pulling away from each other. They were, like, stripping away. Very similar statue behind Charlotte in her office in this episode. Same figure, same kind of stance, like finally broken away by itself. So it was only one part of the statue now. So a lot of people saying, and I believe this, it's the implication that she is now broken free from that Dolores bond. She's now her own thing. She is Dolores Charlotte, but she's like Charloris or Darlet. I don't know, whichever one you want to go with.
The worst celebrity couple name ever.
Cool. It is. That's Darlet would be nobody would stand Darlet. That's a bad. Yeah, that'd be a bad. Mm-hmm. So Shaloris is probably the good one. That's good symbolism. Who are the Pearls being recreated into host bodies? So we have a couple covered. We know Hector is one of them. Hector again, Dunzo, kaput, dead. Maeve is another one. Good sleuthing. Here you go, John. Character that you've mentioned before. Clementine is another one. People matched up the number, the tag number on the machine with Clementine's number from past seasons. It is Clementine, same exact number. So Clementine is being brought into a host body. Interesting enough. And then the last one, we don't know. People have speculated Teddy. I guess James Marsden has said or kind of teased he'll be back this season. Could be Teddy. Could be Ford. I still think we're going to see Ford in some way, shape, or form at the end of the season. It doesn't make sense to me, and it can be put in a way where it does end up making sense, but right now it doesn't make sense to me how they wouldn't have Ford at some point here. Like, there's too many Ford ties, and I feel like Ford can be tied to Serac somehow. So we don't know who that fourth person is. And also remember, we don't know who the fourth Pearl is or the other extra Pearl is in Berlin, which we will find out soon, I'm sure. Any guesses, though? Like, I have no guess, really. I can't figure it out. Teddy kind of makes sense if James Marsden said he's back in the season.
If Marsden's dropping hints, it's Teddy.
I would think, but is this the moment?
That kind of stinks though, because we all kind of agreed that we think Teddy's storyline wrapped up really well and like probably shouldn't like be included anymore. I thought the one way they might try to use him is like kind of like as Dolores' weakness, because she's like outside of her dad, the one person, one host she's had like true affection for, right? Like the one host that would give her pause from completing whatever her goal is. So maybe
Still could be the other Pearl in Berlin as well. So
yeah.
I don't know, but I guess he's teasing it. User Bunny's Gone Bad on Reddit said, how did Bernard Stubbs know where William was? Just want to go back to that quick in case you missed it. This was in the question section on Westworld. Connells. It was on an iPad. I'll show the clip right here. He said make a break for it. And now our question is our first question of this whole section. Was that intentional from Dolores, or was that like Dolores Connells having a bit of a convergence and a moment like Dolores Charlotte had where he's becoming weaker because he's adapting to the emotions of a different person. But he did inform them. And then finally, Dan-007 says, Sizemore programmed his surroundings to not notice him, yet he didn't program out his limp and cane. I agree. Well, that'd be the first. I mean, maybe he likes the cane. That'd be the first thing I do. Like, get rid of the cane.
Yeah. Fix any disability is definitely high. I don't know. I don't have a disability. Maybe people find it to be part of them. But if I had a disability, I think that if I could control the world, the first thing I fix is my disability.
Maybe for him, that's the only life he's really ever known, right? Like if he's a simulation, he's only ever known himself with a limp, so it's not something he wants to program out.
Yeah, but he got that only after he got shot, right?
But he doesn't remember being shot, right? Like
that's true.
His only existence is existing with a limp.
That's a good point. And maybe he's just like, I don't know, it's me now. This is battle scar. That's how he knows.
By the way, killing Nazis, always cool. Do it in as many shows as possible. I always think it's fucking rad, no matter what
easy
movie
kills
it is.
Too.
Exactly. You could do whatever you want to them. I will never feel bad, and it rocks.
By the way, nothing like a good hostage runaway look like this, where you look at them and go, like, you give them like the head nod, like, yeah, you can leave. You're good. You're good. I'm killing all these people. You're good to go. Final thoughts. Tease the next episode. Caleb going to be a very big focus in the next episode. He's shown taking those same memory tablets, those memory Listerine strips. Again, we saw William get one this episode. We saw that one guy in the first episode take one. We see a lot of like a mishmash of Charlotte, Dolores, Maeve, mumbling. They have a lot of dialogue overlapping with each other, but a lot of characters involved in the next episode. And then Dolores ends the tease by telling Caleb to lead. You've always followed. Now it's your turn to lead. So I think we're going to get probably a fairly big reveal on Caleb next episode, setting up the finale, which is only 2 episodes away, which is kind of crazy. Anything else, though? Anything worth noting here?
I think this is a good episode to just show what Westworld has done so well, and it's that like developing different characters to the point where there's no real good or bad. Like every show usually has like, here's your antagonist, here's your protagonist. They're gonna battle. Like there's no good guy, there's no bad guy in this. There's all these different characters with their own individual motives. They're teaming up in all these different cool ways, and I think like their character building in this show is one of the strongest I've seen in almost any show I've ever watched.
Well, you kind of have 3 different viewpoints. You have Dolores, who thinks she's good, Serac, who thinks he's good, and then Bernard, who, like, again, Bernard always just seems like the hero. He just seems like the good guy out of everyone.
And the Man in Black.
Who's now joined by, I guess, the Man in Black, the Man in White, because white, black, good, evil. So I don't know. It leaves you with that question of, well, who is Bernard going to join? But maybe neither. Maybe Dolores and Serac are bad, and it's Bernard who wins out in the end, which I think would be kind of Jeffrey, you're right, giving a winning speech at the end. I mean, that's just good TV right there, right?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if it could be him. I don't think, much like the Maeve thing. And we were saying earlier how he kind of just appears in places. I don't think there's been enough, as KenJac was just saying, was the character building. I don't think there's been enough character building of him this season to be like, oh, well, this guy's going to win. Yeah. I don't even know what his quest is at the moment. You can't have him win with 2 episodes left when it's still not even really clear what he's doing.
I think we'll find out likely because he is at the re-education facility and we learn more about Caleb. I think there's going to be a lot of tying into that next episode. Yeah. So
that's true.
That's it. What is it? When's the next episode? Let me get the calendar up. 27th. We'll have another one of these on the 27th. If you're on YouTube, let us know below. Who do you think the last person is? Who's the last person Ciroc is uploading? Who is going to be the new host? Is it Teddy? Ford? I mean, that'd be kind of fucking crazy, but you never know. Let us know below what do you think about the episode. Hit the like button and subscribe. That's a big help. And then the bell icon so you know when these drop. That's it. We're KenJac, John. I'm Jeff Lowe. We'll talk to you next time.